Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. You know that for one reason or another, the United States did not send yet Abrams M1 tanks. I have my theory on that, and I'm waiting to see if they will ever send them. And in the meantime, the Germans were somehow, I don't know, forced, but I don't think forced, because they got their men over there in the German Ministry of Defense, which is a yes man, yes sir. And they sent a Leopard, but I think they sent Leopard with the other one before him. Nevertheless, the fact is Ukraine has Leopard 2 tanks, which are the most advanced as far as I've been told by these guys, the best. They were sent to Ukraine and they got decimated by the Russians. This is according to the Russians media, obviously, coming from their Minister of Defense, Shoigu. Even the Western media could not hide the fact that the Leopard 2 were destroyed in Ukraine. But that's where I have my little doubts that they actually would like to hide that. I think that maybe they would try to emphasize that because there's a competition that we're not told about, and that is the weapons manufacturing companies. And obviously, when the Germans send a certain kind of weapon, the American media would not really hail it as fantastic because they have to send their weapon, which is going to be fantastic. I read some articles about the French tanks that they send, the wheeled tanks, which are outdated, as Leopard 1 tanks, which are outdated, which F-16s will be sent, they were outdated. Just look, they were designed in 1974 or something like this, so I think it's kind of like gone. So this is for people who might be feeling insulted due to bad patriotism, which shadows the reason, and that's why it's bad patriotism. So what happened now? My theory is that according to as we have here, the Russians, Ukraine's Leopard tanks fleet dwindling, Shoigu said, according to Russia Today. The Americans did not send the Abrams M1 yet, and I don't even think they will send it, because they wanted to see what kind of strategy the Russians were employ versus a Western tank. Therefore, they want to be prepared in a way or another, or don't even send it over there so they don't collapse as the Leopards are. And therefore they say, okay, now we know how the Russians do it. How can we prepare our military, the tank crews? And maybe we don't send them over there. I'm talking about the tanks, because the tank crews were going to be all Ukrainians. Okay, so I think they say go over there in the dark, see what happens. Okay, now, or they do this, okay now. And then they send their Abrams, and their Abrams will perform better, much better than the Leopard, obvious. But the Leopards had to face the unknown. The Abrams already know kind of what kind of tactics, so they could be prepared. And believe me, when Abrams, and if you don't believe me, just be patient, and that is going to be validated. When they're going to send the Abrams will be not destroyed, will be like fantastic, extraordinary. Why? Just because these guys are not going to report it. But you got the Russians reporting it. The Russians inflate things, these guys deflate things. When it's about these guys' losses. When it's their successes, they inflate the successes, the Russians deflate the enemy's successes. That's how it works. So let's read here this article from Russia. From Russia Today. I'm okay. From Russia Today. This comes from July 3rd, 2023. The number of German-made tanks lost by Kiev equals all the supplies from Poland and Portugal, the defense minister says. So the German-made tanks are no more the ones that were reportedly delivered by Poland and Portugal. The number of Ukrainian Leopard 2 tanks, the best, battle tanks destroyed by Russian forces is comparable to the entire supply of the vehicles that Kiev received from Poland and Portugal, Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu has reported. Shoigu said on Monday that Ukraine has lost 16 Leopard tanks, which he added practically amounts to 100% of the tanks of this type supplied by Poland and Portugal. And Warsaw earlier pledged 14 Leopard 2A4S to Ukraine, with the first deliveries reported in March. Portugal has sent 3 Leopard 2A6 tanks via Germany the same month. In a similar update on June 22nd, senior Russian officials claimed Ukraine had lost 13 Leopard tanks. Shoigu claimed during a ministerial meeting that the tanks had been hit after June 4 in the southern part of the front line, along with 15 planes, 3 military helicopters, and over 900 armored vehicles. The date is considered by Russia to be the start of Kiev's counteroffensive, in which Western tanks were expected to give Ukrainian troops an edge. According to Russian minister, and I'm quoting, overall the enemy failed to reach its objectives on any direction. I made a video on that one, which proves the mastery of Russian soldiers and obviously inflated expectation put on the much praised Western weapons. He further claimed that Ukraine's foreign backers were pressing Kiev to continue assaults on Russian positions despite the loss of some 2,500 pieces of heavy weaponry so far. The Wall Street Journal reported last week that after their failure to break through Russian defense lines, the Ukrainian forces have been keeping Western weapons away from the front line and seized major attacks. Why you keep them away? Send them in, they're gonna destroy everybody, right? The article detailed the experience of a Ukrainian tank crew who were trained to operate Leopard 2 tanks in Germany. They said their side was shocked by the scale of Russia's preparations for the counteroffensive. Well, maybe that's because it's too much ideology and make-believe or wishful thinking involves even in the military, where you should be accurate as possible on the location and the ability of your enemy. But if you discard them as being, backward and their weapons being rusty and you're the best because those weapons that you receive are the best because they tell you they're the best. So if they tell you they're the best, must be the best. Then if you have this kind of thinking, what do you expect? I don't expect maybe I'm wrong, and I hope I'm not wrong. I don't expect the Ukrainian top military brass over there think the same way. I hope that they have more common sense in looking at the technical specifications of the weapons they receive and also look at the enemy's military technical specifications of their weapons and realize that probably they're comparable. Or even if you have a little edge, it's not the edge these guys are telling you. But nevertheless, the propaganda goes both ways. So it's not only the Ukrainians are, they do that, but the other ones, their mass media works on that too. That's the propaganda. We'll see. Maybe the Abrams will not show up, since you read over there that, according to, I think it was Wall Street Journal, the Ukrainians keep the Western weapons away. Why do you keep them away? If they're so good, you want them involved so they make a difference. Therefore, you want them on the front line. If you keep them away, it's like, I'm going to give you this analogy. Sometimes they say, well, the Mercedes-Benz is the best car, or it's a very, very good car. And this is good, it's good, and it lasts long. Yes, but if you look, for instance, at Mercedes-Benz is not an everyday car for most people. For most people, Mercedes-Benz, I'm talking about the luxury ones, not the lower end, which everybody can afford and drives it as an everyday car. They're driven less, they're kept usually in garage, and it's people middle age and older people who can afford having them. therefore drive less. So of course they're going to last longer if you look at that way. But it's not, you don't know if they're the best or not. The same with these tanks. If the tanks you don't employ them over there, you can say, well, they're over there, they're good, but why don't you use them? And then you know if they're good or not, and use them often enough. And that's the whole point. And I didn't say this to take a dump on on Mercedes-Benz, because after all, I like that kind of car for many reasons. But here is the point. Use them. Only by using them, exposing them to reality, to their purpose, you realize that it's a good car or it's a good tank, which is in a war. I don't want to see it exposed somewhere, or just driving around a tank and shooting here and there on targets on the. That's artificial. You can have any car doing all kind of tricks like that, but the duration, the durability, and so on. Test them. I might, as I said, I suspect that the Americans will not send Abrams M1 tanks, possibly because what happened to Leopard 1, Leopard 2 tanks. That's one reason, and the other one, probably they are expecting the war to end. This is the last, I would say, spasm of Ukraine, and then after that, probably there's not going to be another counteroffensive. That requires a lot of materials, a lot of money, a lot of support, and they say, well, we'll send F-16s. Do you think the F-16 is going to be game changer? I don't think so whatsoever. First, for me, F-16s are an old fighter jet or multi-purpose jet. It was designed in 1970s. Compare that, put that in a, as I always make this analogy, poor or good, however you want to take it, it was designed with the technology then. It was updated, upgraded, but still. So we say F-16s. No, I want something that was designed, a little bit more current. Thank you very much for being with me again today. I'm expecting those Abrams to not show up. And if they show up, we will not hear them being blown up. Not because they will not be blown up, just because it's a competition and this is a advertising campaign for those guys. And you see, the Patriots are destroying each and every missile and rocket sent by the Russians to Kiev. The world is watching, and then people make business right now. Very busy bees. Rheinmetall, which doesn't have the Patriot, but Lockheed Martin and Raytheon and other Boeing and other companies. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.